Next chapter. Most beautiful day of our lives. 14 pages this chapter, so next chapter will be 40 pages. 44, 46 pages, so let's get this next 60 done. Now, the last date that we saw in the book was the 20th of May. Next date. Jungkook! All Jungkook! We haven't heard from Jungkook in a minute. Let's see what's going on. Let me check the weather because it's thundering like crazy, but it's not raining, so. What's up, baby? What's up? You want to say hi? Come here, look. I'm going to show you guys. Asia! Hi. Hi, guys. Say hi. Say hi. You know they love you. They love you, baby. Love you. Can you kiss? Can you kiss? Can you kiss? Give me a kiss. Hey, you want it? What? There's nothing there. Just pets. Love you. Should only work for food. Love you. Next section. Alright. Jungkook. We haven't seen Jungkook in a minute. May 22nd, year 22. Girl, I don't have any food. I'm sorry. Someone shook my shoulder to wake me up. When I opened my eyes, the car window was filled entirely with the seascape. The sea breeze felt chilly, probably because I was only half awake. I wrapped myself with both arms and got out of the car. The others, already far out on the beach, where the waves broke against the shore, waved at me. Beyond them was the sea, and above the sea was the sun. The entire scene looked like a still frame. The wind picked up and filled this still frame with raging sand just as I raised my hand to wave back. The gritty dust rose from the ground and swirled about. The others turned around all at once, covering their faces to ward off grainy wind. I did the same, shutting my eyes tightly, bending my head and covering my face with my arm. We stood in this position amidst the sounds of lapping waves and whistling wind for a long time. I tried to open my eyes, but they stung from the sand. Don't rub them, it'll just make it worse. Upon hearing Hosuk, I slowly blinked. The sea, the sky, and the others kept appearing and disappearing through the tears welling up in my eyes. After I blinked several times, tears streamed down and the stinging subsided. Tears must have flushed the grains of sand out. I heard the others laughing. They were laughing at me standing in the middle of the empty beach, shedding tears. It was unclear who began to run first. It started out as a silly game. I pretended to chase the others who kept making fun of me. Hosuk darted off, as if he was fleeing from me. Then the rest joined in, running towards and away from one another and laughing joyfully. At some point, we were all running along the coastal road. I ran behind the others. I was out of breath, sweaty, and had a splitting headache, but I didn't stop because they continued on. We'd all met again, sprung Jimin from the hospital, and returned to the same beach. It was all unplanned. All I had done was tag along, but it felt exhilarating. Maybe running around blankly was the only way for me to deal with that fearfully thrilling sensation. I'd done the same when we all ditched school and came to this beach the first time. That's right. We were like this back then too. Namjoon said when we dropped down on the beach to catch our breath, I think it was just as hot then. When was it? It was Jimin. It was June 12th. My good memory took everyone by surprise. I remember exactly because the photo we had taken on the beach was marked with the date. I sometimes took it out and stared at it. I didn't tell anyone, but I felt on that long ago day I had finally found a real family, real brothers. Guys, I began to express my gratitude, but found myself at a loss for words. What? The others rushed me one by one and then flung themselves at me. We rolled on the beach, tangled up together, playing like children. Why are you here alone? I sank down next to Taehyung, who was sitting in one corner of the sandy beach away from the others. He looked at me briefly and asked a question instead. Was that there the last time we came here? He was talking about the observatory. If it was, we would have climbed it, but I don't remember it. He nodded in agreement. He kept staring at the observatory. Let's go. Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Jin. His face unrecognizable as he was standing against the light. It might have been because I was looking up at him from a sitting position, but he looked so tall. I stood up, dusting off the sand. My feet sank deep into the burning sand. I sneaked into Jin's shadow and walked on, kicking sand with the tips of my sneakers. Sand I kicked up splattered onto Jin's pants, but he didn't look back. Same day. Taehyung's entry. I had seen this all before in a dream that I felt too vivid and real. I saw the sea, the 7 of us, the towering observatory. I stood on the observatory at the end of the dream. Everyone looked up at me. They were far away, so their faces were hard to see. Still I smiled at them as if I was bidding them farewell, and then I jumped. Jin? Hearing Jungkook, I turned my head to see Jin climbing the observatory. At the very top, he turned his body towards us. He seemed to be trying to photograph us. The others waved at him, but I couldn't. It was like this last scene in my dream. The only difference was that Jin was up there instead of me. That explains that video. That moment, it felt as if the ground sank under my feet and my body floated in the air. I shut my eyes tightly, fearing my body might plummet to the ground. I didn't clench my fist, but the wound on my palm began to hurt. The wound seemed deep, but healed more quickly than I expected. It left a red scar. Sometimes it hurt so intensely, like I was being punished for all my wrongdoings. It hurt now. Namjoon's entry for that day. He was only a year younger than I am. No, I didn't say so. I'm older, I know, but he's not a kid anymore. It's time he started taking care of himself. I got it. No, I'm not mad, sorry. I looked down at the ground after I hung up the phone. We were on our way to our lodging after spending the day at the beach. A lukewarm breeze was blowing our way. It felt like my heart was clogged and would burst at any minute. Ants were marching in file on the ground covered with sand and dirt. It wasn't that I didn't love my parents. It wasn't that I didn't worry about my brother. I'd turn a deaf ear to them if I could, but I knew I'd never be able to. I knew that all too well. Then, what was the use of the struggling? Losing my temper, feeling distressed and trying to break free. Far off, someone was standing still like me with his back turned. It was Jungkook. Jungkook once told me, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I couldn't bring myself to confess that I was far from an adult, let alone an exemplary one. It seemed too brutal to crush his hope then. I couldn't tell someone so young, someone who hadn't been given the trust, support, and affection he deserved, that you don't just become an adult by getting older and taller. I wish Jungkook's future would be kinder to him than mine was. To me, because I couldn't promise that I'd be of any help to him along the way. Jin's entry, May 22nd. Have we gone through Jin already? Got Taehyung, got Jungkook, and Namjoon, right? Alright, so we're on Jin, 22nd of May. I looked at the others again. They were making silly jokes, laughing, chatting, and roaring with laughter again when someone sprang up and started dancing. I couldn't believe what was unfolding before my eyes. We got together after so many trials and errors. I dreamed of this for so long, and so desperately that it seemed impossible it was actually happening. But I felt uneasy because I still had something to confess. I kept hesitating and couldn't muster up the courage. But I couldn't run away from it all anymore. Unless I told them, I wouldn't be able to look my friends in the face. When dinner was almost over, I told them I had something to say. But they didn't pay much attention. Only Taehyung was staring at me. Several days ago, he came to me and asked me about the dream he'd been having. You know what it means, right? Pressured me for an answer, and I acted like I didn't know. I said, how could I know? It was just a dream. Taehyung got upset and turned away. It wasn't completely a lie. I didn't know why Taehyung had been having such a dream. They did know how brutal it was. That's why I couldn't tell him the truth. All the more so I knew what he was wondering about. He didn't need to know that it wasn't a dream. Him killing his father, that it happened in real life repetitively. No one should go through life with such agony. I wouldn't take my decision back, even if it hurt our friendship. I turned my head away to avoid Taehyung's eyes. I closed my mouth, caught my breath, and spoke more clearly this time. I have something to tell you. Namjoon and Hoseok stared at me. The others also quieted down. I should have told you this a long time ago when we were in high school. Taehyung interrupted. When we were in high school, when you ratted on us and the principal? Or when Yoongi got kicked out of school because of that? Which one are you talking about? Criticism was plainly written on Taehyung's face. Taehyung, Namjoon called him in an obvious attempt to hold him back. Taehyung shook Namjoon's hand off with his eyes solidly fixed on me. That was all you're doing. No one said anything. Everyone was caught off guard and couldn't think of anything to say. I looked at Yoongi. Taehyung was right. Yoongi was expelled from school because of me. I mumbled with my head bent low. I'm sorry. Taehyung began to speak. Taehyung's entry. Seokjin, is that all? Aren't you hiding something from us? I glared at Jin. He stared back at me. I was about to press him harder when someone grabbed my shoulder to stop me. I knew who it was without looking back. It was June. Don't cut in. Why do you care? You're not even my real brother. I could feel Namjoon's eyes on the back of my head. I shook his hands off without even looking at him, and I knew it too. I was taking out my anger on June. When I was heading for our lodging from the beach, passing through the pine forest, I heard Namjoon talking on the phone. Every word he said was right. I was only a year younger, and I wasn't his real brother. I had to take care of myself, but it still hurt. Taehyung, I'm sorry. Let's just stop here. It was Jin who first opened his mouth. Jin was the one who told me he was sorry. June didn't say anything. He just kept staring at me with angry eyes. Stop what? Just lay it all out. You're hiding something from us. Everyone's gaze was now fixed on Jin. Jin gave a look that seemed to tell us to stop. Let's go outside and talk. June grabbed my arm again. I tried to shake his hand off, but he tightened his grip to take me outside. I braced against him. Let me go. What right do you have? What do you know? You don't know anything. You think you're something special, huh? It was then Namjoon abruptly let go of my arm and I stumbled in reaction. Or it wasn't a reaction that made me stumble. The moment he let go of my arm, it felt as if the chain that linked us snapped in the middle. Everything that propped me up and served as my footing seemed to crack and split. Maybe I was hoping he wouldn't let go of my arm till the end. Maybe I was hoping he'd yell at me to shut up and drag me outside fuming. Maybe I was hoping he'd give me a good scolding like he would to his real brother and someone too precious to give up. But he released my arm. I couldn't help but smirk. I was smirking before I knew it. I spit out. What is all the fuss about being together? What are we to each other? We're all alone in the end. At that moment, Jin hit me. Jimin's entry of that day. We should go too. That was what Hoseok said. I turned my head, looking past the door of our lodging. The table, chairs, pots, and dishes were scattered all over the place. Jimin, come on. I closed the door hurriedly. They were way ahead of me. Yoongi and Hoseok took the lead, with Jungkook following closely behind them. There were 7 of us when we first came, and now only 4 were left. I looked up as we passed the observatory. There was no light on the beach after the sunset. The observatory at sea withdrew into the darkness and nothing was visible. There was only the roar of lapping waves. I realized that this was the place we visited when we first came to the sea together. The rock, which was said to make dreams come true. We cried out at the top of our lungs on the same spot where the rock had been blown to bits to make way for a new resort. Jungkook, wasn't it somewhere around here? I looked back, but Jungkook was already bolting way ahead of the others. Hoseok called after him, but he didn't seem to hear. It occurred to me then, Jungkook was also moving forward along his own path. Jungkook had always been behind the others. He had tagged along, It stopped when the others stopped. I was the same. I looked in every direction at an intersection. I had to turn left to get to the train station, or right to take the bus home. I had to go back someday. I couldn't avoid it forever. I had to confess my lies and tell the truth to my parents. Even if they weren't willing to hear them, I had to start fastening the first button at some point. I saw Yoongi step into the road on the left. Jimin, hurry up. Hosuk turned his head towards me. Hosuk, I'm going home now. With a puzzled look, he asked, home? I nodded. Then I turned right. Jungkook's entry. Same day. It's weird that we have 2 entries from Jungkook in the same day, right? I felt like my body was floating in the air. But the next minute, I was lying on the hard ground. I couldn't feel anything for some time. My entire body felt so heavy that I couldn't even lift my eyelids. I couldn't swallow or breathe. And as I fell into a semi-conscious state, I grew warmer and warmer, and my body suddenly shook all over. An undefinable pain and thirst instinctively forced my eyes open. Something shimmering caught my eye, which felt dried out as if filled with sand. At first, I thought it was a light, but it wasn't. It was bright, big, and blurry. It hung in the air motionless. I kept staring at it for a while, and it began to take shape. It was the moon. The world appeared upside down. My head must have been tilted back. In the world, the moon was also upside down. I tried to breathe by coughing, but I couldn't move. Cold fit swept over my body. It was frightening. I tried to open my lips, but couldn't utter a word. My vision kept fading through my eye, though my eyes were open. Someone asked me a question as my consciousness grew dimmer and dimmer. It would be more painful to live than die. Do you still want to live? So we're going to keep reading. I'm going to jump to the next chapter. And that was a pretty decent chapter. Very dramatic. Very short chapter. I may have to split the next chapter up, but we'll see. I'm going to mark that one off the list. And I'll be right back.